I was so focused on being a SEAL for 22 years that I was a SEAL 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. My part-time job was a husband and a father. And so there was tons of like relationships that I had destroyed because I was a SEAL 24/7. That was my priority. Now I'm like, okay, I've got to shift and learn not to be a SEAL 24/7 and be a dad or a husband. Oh, and by the way, I've got to find a career. What does that look like? And I thought there was going to be this magical job waiting for me that my resume from going from being a Navy SEAL to the tier one unit, I'm going to have a job no matter where I'm going to be. But it wasn't there. It wasn't, you just don't jump into this career and now you're back at the same level that you were in the SEAL teams of being this top performer. The best way I can describe it is, I was running with the world's best at what they do. Everything they did, both SEALs and non-SEALs, the support, the caliber of individual that I was next to day in and day out was incredible. And now being at this very fast-paced, high-performing organization to where I felt like a toddler. I felt like now I'm in this world where I got to figure out this new language, this new journey, and how am I going to make ends meet? Was I financially savvy enough while I was active duty to save enough money to be able to have an impact for this next journey that I'm on to provide for my or my wife and my kids? And the answer was no, I didn't. I was so focused on being a SEAL. There's a lot of guys out there that were a lot smarter than me, that were more financial savvy, that had that structure and discipline, which I did pretty well with saving money because I didn't buy a bunch of electronics, but we didn't make enough money to have a profound impact to give us what we needed to. When you go to retire, now you want to relax and you want to kind of wind down, but then you find you've got to work 10 times harder because it's vastly different in the civilian sector. For me, when I walked into this new world of, it's what you make of it. Nobody cares that I was a SEAL. They do for a story. That's great. But what can I bring to the table for them? And so it's hard for me to communicate that to anybody. I'm like, well, I was a Navy SEAL. I went to a tier one unit. I managed people. I did these, I think of, I'm going to date myself here, but that Office Space movie is like, I take the problems to the customer. I'm a people person. That didn't go over well. It's like, well, I'm looking for somebody that's got experience. And I'm like, well, I have experience. Like, look at what all I've been through. It's like, that doesn't relate to them. And I'm not saying that it's not valuable, but to them, I couldn't bring that connection forward to them because they're looking for a certain criteria. And I've got to communicate to that to them. And I didn't know how. And so that was overwhelming to me to see, okay, I've got to uproot my family from Virginia Beach, that I've got a stable community. I've got amazing neighbors around me that were there for me constantly. Now I got to uproot from that over to where I live today in Arkansas. I have to reestablish next to my family to find that the medical that I need, the all the little things like schools, where am I going to work? Where am I going to, how's the cost of living? Like, where's that routine that I was in that was established and almost cookie cutter? Like, I can move from San Diego to Virginia and find my place very easily because we have those resources. But now you got to go out and find those resources and develop those and detach from the daunting task of taking everything you've done in the military, packaging it up for your disability claim. You've got to start separating yourself from the work, which is very, very hard for me to do because I was like, I want to work and be a Navy SEAL to the very last day, but you can't. You have to disconnect. I had to let go and give it off to the people that are very capable because they're now doing amazing things. I'm so disconnected from that. But I had to let go and let them do that so I could take that time to focus on all the amounts of paperwork to get through the not just the medical piece of it, but your drawing a blank here, my service record, all the things in your service record, making sure everything's documented correctly. Because once you get, and this is something that I had a great mentor give me before I started my retirement. He had just retired. He was a neighbor of mine that lived down the street. And he said, Sean, what you're going through right now, just remember all those active duty people, they have never been through retirement, so they don't quite understand what you're going through. And I was like, oh, that it was perfect because I realized that I was just, once you're on your way out, people are kind of like, you're low priority now. you're not part of the mission. We're so mission focused that you're low priority. You've got to go do all this work. And you're like, well, I've had departments that could do all this work for me. How do I do that? And so now I'm just learning all these new things of scrubbing my records, everything that I've done in the military, and finding a way to capture it so that when I do retire and get out of it, all those benefits that I thought were going to be automatic weren't, they're not automatic. You got to go out and do the work to get them. And so all those things I struggled with trying to manage my time, disconnect, be a husband, be a father, find that next chapter of my life that's going to provide the same value that the SEAL teams was going to. And to that point about that value, there's nothing that's going to be as fulfilling as walking in every single day to be around the best group of people that you'll ever be around in your life and doing something that has such a huge impact on not just our society, but other societies out there. When you go and you're able to be a professional, there are things that are going to find joy in, but nothing is quite like being a SEAL. And so I discovered that, and that was very, very scary to me as I'm transitioning, is like, well, how do I find something I can at least enjoy doing? I think I know what I want to do. I think I want to go into this career field. And at the time, I was doing an internship through the SOCOM Care Coalition. And it's great because I got to do an internship with Tyson Foods, which I'm so blessed to do that. But I realized right away is like, this is not going, it was about a week that I was like, this isn't good for me. This is not, I'm not going to be a good mindset. It's going to be taking away from me, which is also going to be taking away from my family, which leads down some very, very dark paths. I wanted to be able to bring my best self home and also bring my best self to work. And there's got to be a balance there. And I wasn't finding that balance in this transition. I was struggling because every single day that I would walk into the SEAL teams, I was around people. It was filling my cup. I didn't realize it, but just even the little nuanced things that annoyed me were also filling my cup, because you could joke around with these guys and girls and just have the best time. You could leave, you could come into work and be like, in a bad mood, but you leave because of these little interactions. I can go work out. I can go to the shoot. I can go now and like manage a project and get a bunch of things done because everybody's working together for the mission and doing such a fantastic job at everything they do. So you're getting these little victories that you're not realizing it's work, but you come home fulfilled. And so I wasn't getting that in my transition. And I was like, there's got to be a change. When you're in the military, the commands are focused on getting you deployed, getting you ready for deploying, finding you work, and getting you back home safely in that cycle. Nowhere in there is the command leaders. Their job is not to find your next chapter in life for you. And that's on us. And that's truly where, going into Beyond the Brotherhood, that's truly where I found that it was filling my cup and fulfilling me. That let's establish that. Let's, Jimmy and I, find a way to bring value to those people. These are great people that we screen and select, that we can connect them with these leaders of industry that can help guide you into an industry.